Hello, and welcome to your lecture video for CNET 204 Week 7. This week we're going to look at how to create a responsive navigation bar. So this builds on Week 6 and Lab 6. You should go back and do those if you haven't done those. So we're going to continue to expand on our CSS knowledge this week. We're going to look at CSS Comments and some more complex selectors, because up until now we've used selectors with a particular tag. So we're going to look at parent-child selectors and how those work, selectors with an ID or a class, pseudo-classes and how they work, and the @media selector, which you can do some interesting stuff with that. So first up, comments. Every language, or pretty much every language I've used anyway, supports comments. They're not as frequently used in CSS as they are in other languages. But they can be helpful for separating blocks of code pertaining to different sections of your website, which makes it easier to find and modify that code later. Now, CSS comments can span either a single line or multiple lines. They begin with a /* and end with a //, which is a very similar comment that originated in C. That's one of the styles of comments you can use in C. Anyway, here's an example. So we've got an example here. This comment spans multiple lines, and you could technically have this /* a line above and this one a line below. Everyone's got their own kind of way of doing these, right? This one spans a single line, exactly the same idea, right? Now, which one do you use? Well, it depends on the context that you're doing things, and you're gonna see kind of as we progress through the course where these are useful. And you already created a comment CSS, right? When we created the style sheet, you added a comment with your name and student number, because that's a good thing. So next up we have parent and child selectors. I'm just getting the mouse out of the way because I noticed it was on the screen. Sometimes you're going to want to stylize certain elements, such as, in this case, we're going to use the UL tag, but only if they descend from another tag, such as the nav tag, so they're descended as. In this case, the top level tag is known as the parent tag, and subsequent nested tags are known as children. This can and this will get pretty complicated in this week's lab. But in this particular case, this example here, we're going to apply some CSS styling to unordered lists, but only if they exist within a nav tag, which we made last week. So you can see where this is going, hopefully. Now, there's other ways you can uniquely apply CSS to things on your website, such as by using an ID or a class, which we're going to look at on the next slide. You can call an ID anything you like, but it should only be used to identify an element uniquely once within a page. And you just add the ID parameter and its value to the tag that you want it to apply to. So we have our HTML example here, and see we've added to our paragraph, we've added an ID, we've called it sample, and then in the CSS you just refer to that ID with a pound or a number sign or a hashtag or whatever you want to refer to that symbol as in front of it. And you can get a bit complicated with these, and we're going to look at these. I think we're going to use them next week actually, but it's useful to cover them at the same time. Now, classes work almost exactly like an ID, except without the restriction of being used once per page. A class can be applied to as many elements on your website as you want without a restriction, which is, it's kind of handy, right? Technically, you could do that with IDs too. It's just not considered good practice. It's not proper form. So in this case, we've added a class called sample to our paragraph, just like we did the ID, right? And you reference that in your CSS with a single dot in front of it. And just like I mentioned with IDs, you can be a bit more specific. You can have your class apply to only a particular tag that has that class. So p.sample would only apply whatever styling we put in here to paragraphs with the sample class. So a couple different ways to mix it up. We're going to be using classes. Now pseudo-classes can apply CSS to elements of your web page when a certain action or criteria has been met, such as when a user hovers over an element or a link has been previously visited. You can stylize that differently. In this sample here we're looking at, this will apply to anchor tags, but only when the user hovers over them. And we're going to actually add a really cool effect to our navigation bar using this and some more complex stuff in this week's lab. So a:hover, when you hover over it, do whatever the styling is that goes here. And then the media selector is another thing that can be used to apply different styles to different media types or devices. You can do this based on the width and height of the device, or even its orientation. You commonly use this for providing a different style for your mobile device, which is exactly what we're going to do with this. And you can also, just throwing it out there, use this to specify a different style for print versions of your document, because maybe someone wants to print your web page if you've got product information on it or something like that. It's a handy thing. So at media screen and max width 600 pixels, whatever styling there will apply to devices that meet that criteria. Now, where did I get that number, max width 600 pixels? W3 Schools. It's a good example there, and yeah, I borrowed it. We're going to use all of this stuff this week in Lab 7. You're going to implement some comments, which we've done that before, but we're going to implement them again. You're going to create and use classes and IDs. I think we definitely do a class. I think we do an ID too. And I wrote the lab. I should remember this, but there's a lot of stuff that I do and teach. And then we're going to use CSS to implement what's known as responsive design. So that's going to make it a mobile-friendly navigation bar, right? It's going to resize based on the type of device you're viewing the web page on. And it's really easy to do this. Next week in Lab 8, you're going to create another web page using with images and tables in it to format the content, and you're going to position and stylize some of the elements using CSS. And wow, we're at Lab 7. We're working on Lab 8 soon. That's crazy. So thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, thumbs up, whatever, all that fun stuff. Take care, be safe, and I will see you in the lab video. Bye for now.